With 32 different NFL teams, there are bound to be teams in different states of their franchises, and not surprisingly, there are. There are teams like the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs who compete year in and year out and have two of the biggest premier players in the entire NFL in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. But for every NFL team like those two, there are the exact opposites. You know, teams in disarray, and as you can see by the title of today's video, the biggest dumpster fire franchises we currently have in the NFL. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing three of the worst NFL franchises we currently have, and this is from a roster standpoint and their outlook moving forward, combined with moves they've made over the past couple of years. And having said that, one of the teams may surprise you, but we will, like we always do, break everything down, and without further ado, let's begin. And of all teams, we are going to start with the Carolina Panthers, and this one is for a couple of reasons. Over the past 2 years, they have started out 3-2 through 5 games, only to finish 5-11 in the 16-game season in 2020 and 5-12 in the 17-game season in 2021. Matt Rule has been their head coach over the past 2 years, and not only will he enter 2022 with his seat practically on fire, but he has been a disappointment since the Panthers hired him from the University of Baylor. He was a good coaching candidate, as he built Temple up really to the maximum of what they could do, given who they are, as Temple was never going to compete nationally and compete with Ohio State or Alabama in a playoff game, and Rule struck while the iron was hot, built up Baylor in 3 years, going from 1-11 in his first year to 11-3 in his final year. He parlayed that into an NFL head coaching job, and good for him for being able to set his family up for generations of wealth. I genuinely do mean that, but since then he has coached the Panthers to a 10-23 record over 2 years and currently has lost 12 of their last 14. And when you dive even further into the Panthers' woes in 2021, their only wins down the stretch, in the final 12 games of the year, were against the Falcons, who did not beat a playoff team in all of 2021, and I'm not exaggerating, their 7 wins came against teams like the Jags, Jets, and Giants. And if you want to say, well, the Panthers beat the Cardinals when they were 8-1, and it was on the road, technically that is correct in the same sense as myself saying I have as many Super Bowl titles as Dan Marino. Colt McCoy and Chris Streveler played quarterback for Arizona that day, and it was, in a lot of ways, what the Panthers were expected to do: beat a backup and third-string quarterback. The Panthers traded a considerable amount of draft capital for Sam Darnold in what was a 2, a 4, and a 6, and that said second-round and fourth-round pick will be used in this year's draft. So now we have a team with a lot of holes, with no exaggeration here, about a quarter of their draft picks not allotted to them because of a failed trade. And when I said in the intro past decisions will come up, this is a perfect example of that. And of course, had Darnold worked out, everyone, myself included, would certainly be praising them for making this trade, and I believe other teams would certainly try this method of trading for a quarterback who has not been good for them for the team that drafted them for a variety of reasons. Sam's could be the New York market, Adam Gase, and not great weapons around him, really all culminated into one. However, Sam is just not a good NFL starting quarterback, period. And now the Panthers are paying the price, along with having a head coach who through 2 years has finished the final 24 games of the season with a combined 4-20 record. Next is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and while they do have Trevor Lawrence and some other pieces, they are included for a lot of the front office and player personnel decision making, rather than strictly having Trevor or the decision to draft him, because that was a no-brainer. The Urban Meyer experiment was horrific and went about as well as everyone thought. Very rarely is everyone so keen on an idea or in mutual agreement that this is either very good or very bad, but everyone from the start was both annoyed and pissed off for the development of Trevor Lawrence that this was who they hired. And Trent Baalke as the GM was just as bad of a decision, and the only way you can really describe Trevor's rookie season is in one word, and that's a nightmare. And when you look at the AFC South, it's essentially a tale of two divisions, the contenders and then the Jags and Texans. And the decision to draft Travis Etienne, I will always stand by and say how dumb of a pick that was, and that's before he takes a snap on the field. And I'll go ahead and say there's a decent chance he is productive this year in 2022, not necessarily because of how good of a player he is, but because of the opportunity he will more than likely have. Trevor was throwing to on a relatively consistent basis in year 1 to Laquan Treadwell of all players, a 2016 first-round draft bust, and that's how the Jags treated their once-in-a-generation quarterback. That's how they said, yes, we're going to groom our guy, and undoubtedly the quarterback with the most potential in this 25-year-old franchise's history with a first-round bust and a 31-year-old wide receiver too in Marvin Jones. Go out and get him, Trevor. Oh, and if this isn't enough, we'll give you James O'Shaughnessy as your tight end and make a midseason trade to acquire Dan Arnold while simultaneously giving up on a player that was drafted the year before 9th overall in CJ Henderson. They have since hired Doug Peterson, which is a decision I am fully on board with, I want that clear, but for Trevor's rookie season, I don't think they did a single thing right to try and help him succeed. Not one. And if you want to try and justify the Travis Etienne and say they were going to use him, I don't want to say a Deebo Samuel role, but they're going to use him as kind of an offensive weapon, why? Why would you even do that? They wanted to draft Kadarius Toney, and that was leaked, and the Giants also needed a receiver, and they drafted him before they could, so they essentially just said, we're going to draft Travis Etienne and use him the way that we wanted to use Kadarius Toney. Just flat out poor decision making. It got leaked, and there's nothing that they did right to help Trevor Lawrence succeed to his maximum potential. There's a reason why they are selecting number 1 overall in back-to-back drafts, and that does not happen by accident. You don't luck into, or unluck into, the worst record in the league, not once, but twice in a row. Once I could maybe understand, like if the Bills this year lost Josh Allen in week 1, and then maybe had a string of unfortunate injuries. Obviously, we don't wish that to happen, but if that happened, that would be unfortunate luck, but not twice in a row. So yes, while they do have Trevor Lawrence, and he is a phenomenal piece to have, they are quite the dumpster fire outside of him, and when you place not good pieces around a rookie quarterback who needs help, yes, even Trevor Lawrence needs help to succeed, you're going to get a rookie quarterback who posts a 3-14 record, with one of those wins, by the way, being in large help to the defense who gave up just 6 points to the Bills, while the Jags put up just 9 points, and Trevor Lawrence is going to throw 17 interceptions and complete less than 60% of his passes. And from one AFC South team to another, we go to the mighty Houston Texans. The Texans are, and I don't say this lightly, in one of the worst positions I've ever seen a franchise be in. With the Jags, you can at least convince yourself and say, well, if they nail what we presume to be the Evan Neal pick at the number 1 overall pick and pick 33 at the top of the second round, things will start to look up for them. With Houston, though, this was a team that traded for a left tackle and multiple first-round picks for that. And to be honest, this may be a hot take here, but hear me out. I didn't have a problem when they did that, because let's go way back in time for a minute. They traded Laramie Tunsil within a few weeks after Andrew Luck retired. So in their minds, the Jags are atrocious. The Colts no longer have a quarterback that's a serious threat. And the Titans' quarterback is Marcus Mariota, who is currently being backed up by Ryan Tannehill. The division is ours to lose. So if we make this trade by bringing in a premier player to protect our franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson for a decade and do a damn good job like we expect Laramie to, this will be worth a couple of first-round picks, because we assume with the Deshaun Watson to DeAndre Hopkins connection, these first-round picks will generally be in at minimum, and even if they win a playoff game, then it would be closer to pick 32, but they would be in at probably the 22 to 25 area, and we're not going to be able to select a tackle of Laramie Tunsil's caliber in the 22 to 25 area. Well, as we know, things don't always work out the way you expect them to, and the Titans became a good team, and Ryan Tannehill helped lead them to an AFC Championship game appearance and take over the AFC South, while the Colts, not surprisingly when your franchise quarterback retires a few weeks before the season starts, staggered to the finish line in 2019, then signed a veteran and made the playoffs in 2020. Now their situation is a little murky, but they are miles better than the Texans. The Jags have been the Jags, and we already went through their whole mess, but what surprised me in all of this was quickly how bad the Texans became. And what's crazy is, over the past few years with COVID and everything, the Texans were up by 24 points in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs at one point in time, and are now one of the worst teams in all of football. Now, Davis Mills has been an unexpected bright spot for them, and I'll give the Texans that. I don't shy away from giving a team credit where it's due. But it's honestly remarkable, for the most part again, how bad they are and where they are as a franchise. Why they hire Lovie Smith is beyond me, and the results we will see soon in 2022 will show why that was a bad hire. The Josh McCown rumor was supposedly that they're testing the waters to see how people would react. Not surprisingly, for a guy that's never coached, the results and the reaction to that was not good. But for Lovie himself, man, go get that bag, dude. I'm happy for you to be able to, again, I mean, he had a lot of money opportunities with the Chicago Bears and then the University of Illinois, but, there's never going to be a time where a person's going to say, I have too much. So for Lovie, go get that bag and keep setting your family up. So anyways, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, now is the time I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world. And until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.